Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram and Ken Shreve here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, Wednesday, November 6th, where we saw a powerful move. The bulls are back in town here, Ken, with explosive gains across the board on the heels of the U.S. presidential election results.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a close election according to the polls, but pretty resounding, pretty resounding victory for Mr. Trump. But big day for stocks. Wanted to take a look at three stocks. First of all, is going to be Oracle, ORCL. After that, let's take a look at Samsara, IOT, and then the venerable Caterpillar, CAT.
Okay, we'll take a look at those three stocks. But first, let's take a look at the major indexes. The NASDAQ today up almost 3% by sessions close. The weakest of the day was the S&P 500, and it was up still 2.5%. The Dow today up 3.6%, and the Russell 2000 leading the way, Ken, with a powerful move here and a close near highs. The gain 5.7% on the day. So this is just an explosive pivot here. I guess you could say we've been in a bull market. It really feels now like we are in a powerful shift here in the mindset for traders.
Well, when you get upside breakouts like we saw today, I think the only index that didn't hit an all-time high was the Russell 2000, but it came to within 6 or 7 points of its all-time high. So, beautiful breakout here for the Russell 2000 index, and yeah, it's been a while since we've seen gains as explosive as we saw today. So. It was just a really solid session all the way around, broad-based leadership. Mentioned on IBD Live this morning that breadth wasn't even 2-to-1 positive on both exchanges, so that was just kind of raised a little bit of an eyebrow. But my colleague Dave Chung reminded me that at marketsurge.com, our sister website, it showed 2,129 stocks up in volume and only 521 down in volume. So that to me was a good sign. A lot of stocks moving, even though breadth was maybe a little disappointing. I mean, typically when we're up 2.5, 3%, usually like to see breadth at least 3-4-to-1 positive, and we weren't even 2-to-1 positive on both exchanges. But beautiful breakouts today for really all the indexes.
Absolutely. And in terms of the notable strength here in small caps, looking underneath the hood, what was working today, you had financials, you had energy, you had industrials, software, just to name a few of the groups. So speaking of financials, here's a look at the regional banks, because when you're talking about the small caps, it's those regional banks. And look at this, Ken, KRE, the S&P Spider Regional Bank ETF up 13% on the day. When was the last time we saw a regional bank ETF up 13% on a day?
Yeah, it was challenging to some extent. So again, something else that we talked about on IBD Live this morning as after the market first opened, and our chief market strategist Mike Webster was saying, it's tricky right now because here we are greeted with stocks up 15%, 20% from yesterday's close, and you always want to be careful of chasing stocks. So KRE obviously really captured the broad-based outperformance of banking stocks, other financial stocks. Was it buyable today? I don't know. After a 13% move, probably not. However, this is there were so many explosive movers today. Well, the key now is to see how they hold these gains. Are we going to see volatility afterwards, or are they going to show strength and support? So always worthy, keeping an eye on these strong movers. But this KRE ETF, the number of 13, 15%, 20% movers today was really incredible.
It really was. Let's also take a look at IYT here, Ken. This is the iShares Transport Average. It follows the S&P Transportation Select Industry Index here, up 5% on the day. So another notable industry group move.
Yeah, well, let's go back to the daily chart for IYT because this was a very, very broad-based leadership. You mentioned the outperformance of financials, steel producers, airline stocks, really just about all areas of the market. What I like about IYT here is you have a pretty identifiable pivot right at that 72.29 area, and you can see it's still holding in that 5% buy zone. So for people looking to put some money to work in the market today, at least a breakout like this, you're not talking about an ETF that's too far stretched past a proper entry. So if you go off 72.29 here, at 74.05, still within that 5% buy zone.
Mhm. Absolutely. Okay, well, one notable loser of the day, that was healthcare. Let's see where XLV ended up, just fractionally, up 0.2%. Like many other sectors, there are going to be winners and losers within it. But in general, it does seem like the money was flowing out of the medical sector and healthcare stocks today, Ken.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, listen, XLV has been weak for a while. You can see it undercut its 50-day moving average several weeks ago. It tried to rally back above 150 this morning in heavy volume, and look at what happened. Sellers knocked it all the way down, almost to break even. It ended with just a fractional gain. So this does not look like it's going to be an area to expect leadership from, judging by today's price action. Only because you had volume expand to the upside, and yet the stock gave back a lot of those gains. So clearly, there were sellers in the healthcare sector today, and like you said, there were plenty of bright spots, but healthcare not such a great one today.
Okay. Before we take a look at individual stocks, I do want to quickly circle back to the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. Those are the indexes that we like watching very closely. The Nasdaq, the tech-heavy index, now blasting into new high territory here, Ken. So that looks pretty darn positive to me.
Yeah, I thought Tuesday's action was encouraging because you had the Nasdaq kind of move above those short-term moving averages, and you saw how volume expanded yesterday. So there was some accumulation in this index yesterday, and then just accumulation in spades today with this heavy volume gain. We actually, for the leaderboard model portfolio, we were not aggressively buying all day. We were being very selective. We thought that QLD, which is the two times uh, Nasdaq 100 ETF. This was a nice breakout today. Yeah, just still in a buy zone here. So you said there were some opportunities, but they weren't as widespread as you'd think. Again, just because so many stocks moved, so powerfully. But great breakout for the Nasdaq 100 as well. So we put QLD on leaderboard just to increase exposure a little bit, and we'll continue to we're definitely going to continue to monitor this market and look for setups when they emerge. Headed into today, we were just dealing with a lot of stocks that really weren't nearby areas. So we talked about a few today, but it was just important to be very discerning today and not be careful not to chase these really strong performers.
Mhm. Right. Tricky indeed, high risk, potentially high reward. No matter what kind of environment that we're in, risk management always very important. And yeah, these index ETFs definitely a compelling way to get market exposure, Ken. So thanks for talking through that. And then the S&P 500, bouncing off of the 50-day line. I think a number of us were saying, the setup day was Tuesday. To your point,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just had this election coming up. I mean, I know personally, I love seeing an uptrend for the index and a bounce off of the 50-day line. That's usually when I like getting aggressive. So if we didn't have the binary, at least the feeling of a binary outcome in terms of the market reaction, I would have started putting my foot on the gas a bit heavier then, but had to add a little bit more exposure today. So,
Yeah, it makes sense. Again, that setup day yesterday that you mentioned, S&P 500 finding support right where it should at the 50-day moving average, and then a bullish gap up in volume. So definitely, some signs of at least institutional buying today, and quite a character change for the market. We've been in an uptrend for and a power trend for
yeah,
quite some time. It came under some pressure recently, but looking at the S&P 500, just finding support right where it should. So this
absolutely.
is the time to feel good. At least about a year-end rally. We're getting into a pretty good time of year where seasonally a strong time for the market. Maybe see a little bit of an early Santa Claus rally. So time to be looking for stocks to buy, but it's also the time to be careful not to
Mhm.
chase chased merchandise that have moved, too far too fast.
Right. And Ken, one more chart that I want to get your thoughts on before we take a look at those three stocks, and that is the 10-year yield advancing again today, up another 3.2%. We've got more news this week. Not only did we have the election headlines, but we also now we turn the page to the Fed.
Oh, that's right. There's a Fed meeting this week. It started today, and there's going to be a policy statement tomorrow, Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and they're widely expected to cut their key lending rate, the Fed funds rate, by 25 basis points. That has fully been baked into the market. The odds for another rate cut in December have fallen a little bit, still about a 70% chance, according to CME FedWatch. This move in the 10-year yield has been incredible, and it moved soared again today on the prospects of the Trump administration possibly carrying high deficits, and I think the performance of small caps was the fact that it was the leading index today was very impressive, because small caps typically don't like these big rises in interest rates, and big move
Mhm.
in the 10-year Treasury yield today, but Russell 2000 was the strongest performer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to see what that Fed policy statement brings tomorrow in terms of the market reaction. Okay. Let's take a look at three stocks that are showing notable action here, starting with Oracle, the database software giant, up 5.5% today, Ken.
Yeah, this one is interesting. There were a lot of gaps that did not hold very well today. This one did hold well. It closed up near its session highs. Came down close to a test of the 50-day moving average. Obviously, had a big earnings reaction several weeks ago. Gapped up after reporting earnings. Optimism here that numbers are going to remain strong. They're talking a lot about being well positioned in AI, and they just signed a cloud partnership with Amazon that they announced, when they last reported earnings. 178.61 looks like a reasonable kind of a shelf entry here. So stock that doesn't look too far gone on the weekly chart. It's just really a beautiful test of the 10-week moving average. If we go to the weekly chart for
Sure.
yeah, just the weekly chart here. See that beautiful earnings breakout. Really didn't give back hardly any gains at all. Came down to that 10-week average and found support. So, a bullish relative strength line here. Earnings are still several weeks away, but this looks like a good opportunity here.
Okay. Next on the list, let's check out IoT in the enterprise software group, up 4.2% on the day, also closing at the highs, Ken.
Yeah, breakout over a trend line today. Looked actionable. Volume picked up the pace from yesterday. Not huge, but decidedly heavier. So it looks a little bit like Oracle, and just it's a breakout and then a first test of the 50-day moving average. So this is another name that looks actionable here, especially looking at the weekly chart that we looked at first. IoT is just making a nice test here, almost 4 weeks into building a new base. So you can either wait for a base to form, or watch how it handles the 10-week line here. But this is a fast-growing company, sells at a high multiple, but look at the growth rates. Just look at the annual earnings growth. Just turned profitable in fiscal 2024. Still expected to strong to report strong growth. So the top line growth has been 40% for several quarters in a row. So very compelling growth story here. Good example of how a high multiple stock may not be expensive just because they're still maintaining a pretty strong growth trajectory here. So Samsara, interesting technology and nice technical setup here.
Yeah. Okay, last on our list is Caterpillar. What a
Yeah.
move from this big industrial mining company, up 8.7%.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about Caterpillar because it's just a just an old blue chip company. Best days of growth are behind it, but this was a beautiful technical breakout today. Again, 403.60 looked like a legitimate pivot. Another gap that held very well, getting near the top of the 5% buy zone. So if Caterpillar can maybe pull back a little bit closer to that 403 level in light volume, could be an opportunity here. Again, you can see earnings in their third quarter recently reported decline from year ago levels. So not a fundamental giant, but a good solid blue chip name here
Mhm,
that showing good
mhm.
technical action as well.
Okay, well, we do have a couple of stocks to quickly check in on with earnings out after the bell today because it's still earnings season, Ken. Here's Mercado Libre in the retail internet group. Some call it the Amazon of South America. It is based in, I believe, the headquarters are Uruguay, but
Hmm.
it's a South American e commerce giant. Has been looking pretty good this year, Ken, and setting up in a base, but results, investors not a fan of at the moment, at least. Shares down over 11% with that initial reaction to the results out after the bell. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a long time leader in the internet group, and this was again in a good setup ahead of earnings. So getting a big haircut. Haven't had a chance to go through the report here, but you can see a company that has reported many quarters in a row of strong top line and bottom line growth. A lot of times, companies like this are held to a really high standard. So if they miss by just a little bit, the stock can really get hit. So we'll have to see what was said, but this looks like at least now is going to be a sell signal, poised to gap below that recent low of 1937. So not a good reaction.
Yeah. Okay. And then I believe also Coherent, COHR, out after the bell. This one too, down volatile, but it looks like as of now down over 5%. Now I'm seeing another a tick come through, down 8% here. So again, volatile but down.
Yeah, but another a nice a buy signal today, but buying so close to earnings probably wouldn't have been doing it. So another negative response to earnings. Also, AppLovin, APP, big time leader. They
Check
had
it out.
earnings after the close as well, and just
Goodness gracious. This one's
yeah,
gonna
it's
haunt me, Ken. It's up
haunt.
29%. Oh my word.
I know, pretty clear buy signal
Can't stop, won't stop.
when it moved, when it got close, it broke out, yeah, right there, and, boy, an unequivocal buy. Volume was heavy, and,
Wow.
yeah, you can't, as Bill O'Neill used to say, "You can't kiss all the babies." This was a tough one because it did have the fundamentals, in
Yes.
place, even
Had
before
everything.
it broke out, yeah, and to see it up another 29%
Wow.
after such a monster move, really incredible.
Runaway train.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive, and, props to those who, got in this one when we were talking about it on September 11th on IBD Live with that relative strength line at new highs. So, or maybe there was a mental health buy or a FOMO buy. Sometimes we do talk about that as well. What an impressive stock. Jealous of this one.
Amazing, amazing. Again, a lot of people would say, "Boy, this thing really priced in a lot of good news quickly." Obviously, a lot of optimism around earnings. That's why it ran from 100 to 168, just making an incredible move here. Obviously, on strong results and most likely a really strong outlook as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ken. And thanks everyone for tuning in. That is it from us for today, but we'll be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details on that. We'll see you there. And then we'll also see you back here tomorrow after the close. I do also want to mention briefly that we do have, it's Wednesday. So we have our live podcast coming up at 5 p.m. Eastern. So check that out on YouTube here in just a bit, just in about 30 minutes from now. We've got another great show lined up for you. So check it out. We'll see you then, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.